The billionaire was a man who had everything that money could buy. His house was large enough to look like a palace, his cars lined up like a collection in a showroom, and his business empire stretched across different parts of the world. People admired his success, and many envied him. But inside his grand house, behind the golden gates, he carried one private frustration that his wealth could not solve. His young daughter was struggling in school, and he could not find anyone who could truly reach her. The girl was bright, no doubt about it. She had a natural curiosity, a quick mind, and a playful heart. But she disliked books when they came from strict teachers. Every tutor who entered the billionaire's home would leave soon, shaking their heads and whispering that his daughter was stubborn and distracted. Some said she lacked focus. Others suggested sending her to expensive programs abroad. The billionaire tried everything. He brought in the finest tutors, people with degrees from top universities, but nothing worked. His daughter would cross her arms, turn her face away, or give half-hearted answers that showed she was not interested. At first, the billionaire thought it was simply a matter of discipline. Maybe his daughter needed a firmer hand. But when even the strictest tutors failed, he realized the problem was not about being firm or soft. His daughter needed someone who could connect with her heart first, before filling her head with knowledge. This thought troubled him. With all his power, why could he not find someone who could do such a simple thing? One afternoon, while talking to a trusted friend, he mentioned his struggles. The friend paused for a moment and said he knew of someone who might help. "She's young, not a professional tutor," the friend explained, "but she has a gift with children. She helped her siblings with their studies and even volunteers to teach kids in her neighborhood." The billionaire raised his eyebrows in disbelief. How could an ordinary girl from a modest background do what trained experts could not? Still, his daughter's happiness mattered to him more than his pride. Out of desperation, he agreed to give the suggestion a try. The following week, the young girl arrived at the gates of the billionaire's mansion. She was no older than 16 or 17, carrying a worn-out school bag over her shoulder and wearing clothes that showed simplicity. The guards looked at her with surprise. They were used to seeing sharply dressed tutors with polished shoes, not a teenager who looked like she had just come from a crowded classroom. When she stepped inside, her eyes widened at the size of the house. She had never seen anything like it. But instead of feeling nervous, she carried herself with quiet confidence, as though she had come for a purpose. When she was led into the study room where the billionaire's daughter sat, something unexpected happened. The little girl, who always turned away from tutors, looked up with interest. Her eyes brightened as she saw someone closer to her age, someone who didn't look intimidating with books under her arm. The young tutor smiled warmly, sat down beside her, and started talking in a friendly tone. Instead of opening textbooks right away, she asked simple questions about her favorite hobbies, games, and even the cartoons she liked. Within minutes, the room was filled with laughter, a sound the billionaire had not heard during a lesson for months. The billionaire, sitting quietly behind the half-open door, could not believe his ears. His daughter was actually talking, smiling, and paying attention. He leaned closer, careful not to disturb them. The young girl used simple tricks to teach, drawing pictures, making stories, and even acting out funny scenes to explain hard words. The daughter, who once hated reading, leaned forward eagerly, repeating words and giggling at the silly examples. As the lesson went on, the billionaire noticed something even more striking. It was not just about teaching, it was about connection. The young tutor never made his daughter feel small for not knowing something. She praised her efforts, clapped when she got an answer right, and gently guided her when she was wrong. This kindness, mixed with creativity, opened a door that no expensive tutor could unlock. His daughter felt safe, understood, and motivated. For the first time, the billionaire felt something shift inside him. He had judged people all his life by their achievements, their wealth, or their social position. But here was a girl from a humble background achieving what the most polished professionals had failed to do. He realized there was a kind of wisdom that came not from books or money, but from experience, patience, and heart. As the lesson ended, his daughter ran to him, her face glowing with excitement. "Papa," she said happily, "I like her. Can she come again tomorrow?" The billionaire was stunned. His daughter had never asked for a tutor to return. Usually she would beg him to cancel lessons. Now she was eager, hopeful, and joyful. The eyed young tutor looked at the billionaire shyly, unsure of his reaction. She knew she was not from his world. She had walked through his marble halls feeling out of place. But she had come here for one reason: to help a child learn. Her sincerity showed in every word she spoke. The billionaire looked at her carefully. For the first time in a long while, he smiled genuinely. That night, he sat alone in his study, replaying the scene in his mind. His daughter's laughter, the simple methods of the tutor, the unexpected bond forming before his eyes, it all seemed like a lesson for him as well. He realized that in his search for perfection, he had overlooked the power of simplicity and human connection. It humbled him. He made a decision then and there. The young girl would continue teaching his daughter, no matter what anyone else thought. He knew society might question why a billionaire would hire someone so ordinary, but he no longer cared. He had seen results with his own eyes, results that money had failed to bring. As he turned off the lights, he felt a quiet gratitude. He did not know it yet, but this meeting was the beginning of something much bigger. The young girl had not only entered his home, but also touched his heart. She would soon change more than just his daughter's life. She would change his own view of the world forever. The next morning, the house felt different. The air carried a quiet excitement, like the calm before a happy surprise. The billionaire noticed it first in his daughter's eyes. She woke up early without being asked. She brushed her hair and picked a bright ribbon for it. She even arranged her pencils in a neat row, as if getting ready for something special. The billionaire said nothing, but he saw it. A soft spark returning to her face. The young tutor arrived right on time, carrying the same worn-out school bag and the same warm smile. The guards already knew who she was now, and the house staff greeted her politely. She thanked them by name. The billionaire watched from upstairs, leaning on the rail of the long hallway, and listened as she stepped into the study room and said, "Good morning, friend. Ready for our little adventure today?" His daughter smiled shyly, then nodded. The tutor did not begin with a textbook. She began with a story. "Imagine the letter A is an arrow," she said, drawing a simple arrow on a large sheet. "It points to a word we want to learn. Today, it points to the word able. You are able. Able to try. Able to learn. Able to enjoy." She wrote the word in big, clear letters, then handed the marker to the girl. "Your turn." The girl copied it, slow at first, then a second time faster. The tutor clapped softly. "Wonderful. See? You are able." The billionaire could feel his daughter's cheeks lifting even from where he stood. They moved on to reading. The tutor took a short story with simple lines and colorful pictures. She covered the pictures slowly and asked his daughter to imagine the scene from the words alone. "Close your eyes and see it," she said. "What do you see?" His daughter took a breath and described a tiny bird building a nest. The young tutor asked gentle questions and smiled at every answer. When the girl stumbled on a word, the tutor did not rush her. She broke the word into small sounds and made a silly rhythm with it. They laughed. They tried again. The word fit into the sentence like a puzzle piece, finally finding its place. Math came next, but it did not look like math at first. The tutor opened a small tin and showed a handful of buttons, all different shapes and sizes. "Let's make families," she said. All the round ones together, all the square ones together, like a tiny neighborhood. Once the groups were made, she asked how many lived in each house. Then she drew a simple chart, a bar for the round family, a bar for the square family, taller and shorter, side by side. "Look," she said, "this is math a picture can understand." The girl giggled and made a little mayor out of a green button to run the town. She counted twice, then checked her count again because the mayor said in a tiny voice, "Let's be sure." The billionaire stood there for a long time, the hall clock ticking behind him. He had paid large sums for expert methods that came with certificates and promises. But this was simple and kind, and it worked. He whispered to himself without meaning to, "It's not the cost, it's the connection." He thought about how often he had judged people by their resumes, their titles, their offices with glass walls. He felt a gentle shame in his chest, and alongside it, relief. Maybe he had been looking in the wrong places. At break time, the tutor asked if they could sit in the garden. The billionaire nodded from the hallway and stepped back. The two went outside where the sun fell lightly on the grass. The tutor showed the girl a small notebook. "This is our wonder book," she said carefully. "In this book, we write things that make us wonder. Big things, small things, questions, ideas, new words. No wrong entries here." The girl wrote her first wonder. "Why do some birds sing early in the morning?" Then she wrote another. "How does a rainbow happen?" The tutor smiled. "We will chase these answers together," she said softly. When the lesson ended, the girl did something she had never done before. She picked up the storybook and took it with her without being told. That evening at dinner, she told her father about the bird's nest and how the bird used tiny pieces of string and grass to build something safe. She spoke with lively hands and bright eyes, and the billionaire felt a quiet warmth rise in his chest. He did not interrupt her. He let her finish every sentence. He saw the way her story landed, clean and complete, and he thought of the tutor's patient voice guiding each word into place. The days that followed built a gentle rhythm. The tutor arrived, and the daughter welcomed her with a smile. They made a learning map on the wall, big sheets of paper taped side by side, filled with simple drawings and short phrases. "Reading is a window," one sheet said, with a square drawn like a window open to a blue sky. "Math is a tool," said another, with a clean little hammer drawn beside numbers. The billionaire walked past that wall more than once, pretending he was busy, but always slowing down to read what they had written. He began to notice small changes in his daughter's habits. Her desk stayed tidy. She put away her crayons without anyone reminding her. She set aside a time each evening to read aloud from a book, just for 10 minutes, and then she told a little story about what she read. Some nights, she asked him to listen. He did, giving her his full attention. He learned to nod at the right places and to ask one simple question at the end. She loved that question. What part did you like the most? It made her glow, because she was learning to choose her own reasons. One afternoon, the tutor arrived, a few minutes late. She apologized softly and said the bus had broken down. The billionaire happened to be in the foyer. He saw the worry in her eyes, the way she pressed her lips together, not wanting to make excuses. "It's all right," he said, surprising himself with how kind he sounded. "I'm glad you're here." The words were true, and she seemed relieved. He noticed the way she held herself, with quiet strength, not asking for special treatment, and not expecting anything beyond respect. Later that day, he found himself in the study while they worked on a science lesson, a simple one about plants. The tutor asked the girl to look closely at a leaf with a small magnifier, then to trace the lines she saw onto paper. "This is like the leaf's little road map," she explained. "Water travels through these lines." The girl drew carefully and whispered, "So the leaf drinks in a secret way." The tutor nodded and said gently, "Yes, even quiet things, can be strong. The billionaire felt those words land somewhere deep. He had always believed in loud results, big launches, big announcements, big deals. But here in his own house, quiet work was doing something great. Staff members in the house also began to change how they moved around the study. The housekeeper brought tea and placed it gently by the door, whispering, "Good work," before leaving. The driver, passing by, smiled at the girls' laughter. The tutor treated everyone with simple kindness. She thanked them, remembered their names, and never acted as if the house made her small. She belonged to herself. The billionaire saw that and respected it. One morning, the tutor introduced a new idea. "Today, we practice hearing our own kind voice," she said, touching the learning map. She wrote in a corner, "I am learning, I don't know yet, but I will." She asked the girl to repeat it, and she did. Then they took turns saying it in different ways, serious, playful, even in a whisper. The billionaire wanted to laugh at how simple it all was, but he saw how his daughter's shoulders straightened after each line. The words were changing her from the inside out. After a week, the billionaire noticed something else. His daughter began asking about the tutor in Dardas, small caring ways. Did she have lunch? Does she have an umbrella? Can we send her some cookies to take home? The billionaire nodded each time and made sure the answers were yes. He felt proud of his daughter, not for grades, but for her growing heart. He finally spoke with the tutor at the end of a lesson. He invited her to sit for a moment. She sat calmly, hands folded, eyes steady. He asked her what she saw in his daughter. The tutor smiled. "She is curious," she said. "She is like a little explorer who needs a friendly map. She doesn't want to be pushed. She wants to walk with someone." The billionaire nodded slowly. The tutor went on. "She is also kind. When she knows she can help, she tries." He had not expected that last part, but it was true, and it made him proud all over again. He asked her how she learned to teach like this. The tutor shared a few simple details. She said she had younger siblings and did homework with them every evening. She read at the library and watched how librarians guided children toward books they would love. She volunteered on weekends to help children in her neighborhood, using games and drawings because they did not always have many materials. She learned that attention is a gift you give before you ask for it in return. As she spoke, the billionaire watched the way her words were clean and sincere. There was no show in them, just the steady light of practice. That night, the billionaire thought about everything. He thought of the gate to his house and how it kept the world out. He thought of the young tutor walking through that gate with quiet steps, carrying only a bag and a purpose. He thought of his own assumptions. How easily he had once believed that only professionals with long lists of achievements could help his daughter. He felt humbled. He told himself, without excuses, "I was wrong." The thought did not hurt. It felt honest and freeing. Days rolled into a soft pattern. The tutor taught, the daughter learned and laughed, and the billionaire listened from near or far. The girl began to keep a small jar on. The following week brought gentle changes that felt strong. The daughter began to greet the tutor at the door before the bell even finished ringing. She held her notebook close like a small treasure chest. The tutor noticed and smiled. "You look ready?" she said. The girl nodded with a proud little grin and pointed to the learning map on the wall. Overnight, she had added a tiny drawing of a bridge between "Reading is a window" and "Math is a tool." Under it, she had written, in careful letters, "I can cross." The tutor touched the drawing softly. "That is beautiful," she said. "Let's cross it together." They started that day with a small routine the tutor called warm hands. It was simple. They stacked books, straightened pencils, stretched their fingers, and took 2 slow breaths. "Warm hands make warm minds," the tutor said. The girl closed her eyes and breathed quietly, and the room settled. The billionaire, watching from the hallway, felt the calm reach him too. He had never seen learning begin with quiet like this. It made sense. It made space. Reading flowed easily. The tutor guided the girl to sound out longer words. When the girl stumbled, they broke the word into friendly parts. Invitation, the tutor said, tapping the table gently for each beat. The girl repeated it and then whispered, Invitation means someone wants you. The tutor nodded. Yes, and today, learning is inviting you. The girl smiled and turned the page. When they paused for a short break, the billionaire offered tea. The tutor thanked him, and as they sat for a moment, he asked, What do you enjoy reading yourself? The tutor set her cup down and answered simply. She loved stories about real people who solved problems. She liked books that showed how small actions could build a better world over time. She also read essays on teaching and child development, often borrowed from the library. I have a library card with old tape on it, she said, laughing softly. It has been in my pocket so long the corners are tired. The billionaire found himself laughing too, a small, clean sound, because he could picture that card and the hand that guarded it. He began to ask her more questions in the days that followed. Not to test her, but to know her. He learned that she lived in a small apartment with her mother, grandmother, and 2 younger brothers. The home was busy and full of life. She helped her brothers with homework in the evenings, cooked simple meals when her mother worked late, and took her grandmother to the clinic on some Saturdays. She left early each morning to catch the bus, and she kept a second-hand watch on her wrist to stay on time. She spoke of these things without complaint. It was just life, and she lived it with grace. One afternoon, when the lesson ended, the billionaire walked with her to the door and asked, as carefully as he could, What do you hope to do after school? The tutor looked at him for a quiet second. She seemed to weigh the safety of the question, then nodded. She said she wanted to study at a top university. She wanted to learn how to design better learning programs for children, especially those who felt left behind. She imagined a bright room in her neighborhood with shelves of books, tablets that worked, kind mentors, and open doors. A place where nobody is afraid to ask, Can you help me? She said. And the answer is always yes. The billionaire felt the words land like little lights in his mind. He recognized the shape of a plan in them. He also heard the soft worry. Beneath universities cost money. He did not push. He only said, That is a good dream. Inside the study, the daughter kept growing. She started a new jar labeled Kind Words I Tell Myself. She wrote short notes like, I am trying, and I can learn slowly, and I will ask for help. On Fridays, she and the tutor took turns pulling a note and reading it aloud. Sometimes the billionaire listened from the hall. He did not think of profits or plans or deadlines in those moments. He thought about the first time his daughter refused, a lesson and how far they had come from that day. He found himself whispering his own quiet lines at his desk. I am learning. I can change. One day, the tutor brought a folded flyer from her bag. There is a small reading event at the community center near my home this weekend, she told the girl. I'll be helping the children there. Would you like to visit? The girl looked at her father eagerly, hope shining in her eyes. The billionaire paused. He did not want to create a scene with drivers and attention. He wanted to respect the tutor's space. We will come quietly, he said, just to listen. On Saturday, the driver parked a street away, and the billionaire walked with his daughter to the center. The building was old, but clean. Children sat on a bright rug, leaning forward as the tutor read with expression. She changed her voice for each character, and the children laughed and copied her lines. When a boy lost his place, she handed him her finger to hold the sentence until he found it. When a girl looked shy, the tutor let her turn the page. A small job that made her feel strong. The billionaire stood in the back, hands folded, and watched the ease of it all. The tutor did not perform. She served, and the children glowed because of it. He saw other things, too. The shelves were half full. Some books were torn but taped neatly. A box of crayons was shared between 6 small hands. A sign on the wall listed future events and had a little note. Donations of paper and pencils. Welcome. The billionaire felt his heart pull forward like a tide. He wanted to fix everything at once. But he held himself steady. He had learned something from the tutor. Ask, listen, learn, then act with respect. After the reading hour, he thanked the volunteer who ran the center and asked what helped most. Steady support, the volunteer said. People who show up again. On the walk back, his daughter skipped beside him talking about the boy, who held the sentence, and the girl who turned the page. They were brave, she said. Like me. He agreed. He realized bravery could look like speaking softly, trying again, and showing up on time. He knew brave people in business who made big decisions. But here was another kind of brave, quiet, daily, real. During the next week's lessons, the girl began to mirror the tutor's habits. When she did not know an answer, she said, "I don't know yet," without shame. When she made a mistake, she crossed it out neatly and wrote, "Try again," next to it. She asked more questions. What makes a seed wake up? Why do some words feel heavy and some feel light? The tutor clapped for curiosity. Good question is a door, she said. Let's open it. The billionaire noticed the tutor, too, changing in small ways inside his house. At first, she had moved carefully, like a guest in a museum. Now she greeted the staff cheerfully, thanked the cook for fruit slices, and asked the guard about his little daughter's school. She took up no extra space, and yet made every room feel more human. The housekeeper once whispered to the billionaire, "She reminds me of my teacher long ago." He nodded, understanding perfectly. One afternoon, a light rain swept across the city. The tutor arrived with damp shoes and a thin jacket. She shook off the drops at the door and apologized for the mess. The billionaire frowned at the jacket. "Please, let me have a fresh towel brought," he said. She smiled and said she was fine. He did not insist, but after the lesson, he asked the housekeeper to find a soft umbrella and leave it by the door with a small note. For rainy pages. The tutor found it, read the note, and touched the handle lightly. She did not make a big show of thanks. She only looked up, met his eyes, and nodded once. He felt that nod like a promise. As the bond between the two girls grew, the billionaire began asking the tutor for advice about talking with his daughter. "What do I say when she gets sad?" he asked one day. The tutor thought for a moment. "Sometimes she needs you to listen first," she said. "You can ask one gentle question to help her begin. For example, do you want me to help fix it or just hear it?" Let her choose. He tried that very evening. His daughter chose just hear it, poured out a small worry from school, and then smiled at the end. "Thank you for hearing," she said, as if he had given her a gift. The tutor also shared tips for building simple habits. She suggested a nightly 3 small wins list that father and daughter could share. They wrote things like, "I read 5 pages, I said kind words to myself, and I helped set the table." The billionaire found his own wins were often small and tender. "I was patient. I walked slowly. I asked for a story." He felt proud of these in a new way. They did not belong in a report or a boardroom. They belonged at a kitchen table with warm light. One day, as the lesson ended, the billionaire noticed the tutor's phone screen was cracked. She tried to check the bus times by swiping around the broken lines. It took longer than it should. His hand twitched, wanting to fix it right there. But he remembered his promise to himself. Respect, ask, listen. As they walked to the door, he said, If you ever need help with small things that make your day easier, please tell me. You are helping my family in a big way." She held his gaze, steady and clear. "Thank you," she said. "I will keep that in mind." That evening, the billionaire sat with his daughter and asked about the tutor's dream of the learning room. The girl's eyes lit up. She had not known the full dream, only pieces. She started drawing what it might look like: a long table, bright windows, a quiet corner with cushions, a shelf with baskets for wonder questions, and a door that said, "Welcome." She drew a sign above the door: "Try. Try again." The billionaire watched the pics. The turning point came on a day that began like all the good days. The girl waited at the door before the bell rang, her notebook held like a treasure. The tutor arrived with a gentle smile, shook the umbrella dry, and asked, "Ready to see how our little seeds are doing?" They walked to the window, where 3 clear cups sat in a row. Tiny threads of white reached down into the soil, and a soft green curl had just started to rise in the cup with the best light. The daughter leaned close, eyes shining. "It woke up," she whispered. The tutor nodded. Yes, it knew when it was time. They began with reading, then math with buttons, then a small science note about roots. The room was calm and bright, the kind of quiet that lets soft ideas grow. The billionaire passed by the door with a file in his hands and slowed, listening to the soft rhythm of their voices. He had learned to respect that sound. He did not interrupt it. Near the end of the lesson, the tutor's phone buzzed. The cracked lines on the screen flashed. She silenced it, but it rang again. She looked at the girl with apology in her eyes. "Give me 1 minute," she said softly. She stepped into the hallway and answered, voice low. The billionaire did not mean to hear, but the words carried. A calm voice on the other end gave a number. It sounded like a bill or a fee. The tutor asked a few careful questions. "Is there any plan to spread the payments?" she asked. The answer did not seem helpful. She thanked the person and ended the call. She stood still for a moment, phone held at her side, breathing in and out, as if counting the breaths. Then she put on her small, steady smile and walked back into the room. She did not mention the call. She finished the lesson with focus and kindness, helped the girl write one last sentence in the Wonder Book, and then closed the cover. "You worked very well today," she said. "I am proud of your steady steps." The girl beamed, and then the tutor paused, as if searching for the right words. "I need to tell you something," she said gently. "I may need to take a short break from our lessons after next week. My family has some things to manage. It might be 2 weeks, maybe 3. I will let you know as soon as I can. I am very, very sorry." The girl's smile faded. Her hands went to the edges of the book as if to hold it still. "Will you come back?" she asked in a small voice. "Yes," the tutor said at once. "I will come back. I promise." But the girl still looked worried, and the tutor's eyes grew soft. "This is not your fault," she added. "You are doing so well. Keep reading 10 minutes each evening. Keep your Wonder Book close. I will write you a list of little things to try while we wait." The billionaire stepped back from the doorway, heart tightening. He did not want to push into a private moment. He went to his study and sat at his desk, staring at the learning map on the inside of his mind, the corner that said, "Ask, listen, learn." He waited until the lesson ended and the tutor said goodbye at the door. His daughter came to him, eyes shining with water. "Papa? She may stop for some time," she said, voice shaking. Please don't let her go." She had never asked him for anything with such open need. It took him back to her very first lesson with the tutor, when hope had returned to her face like the sun through a window. He knelt to her level and spoke slowly. "I hear you," he said. I will not take this lightly. He placed a gentle hand over her small fingers. Let me talk to her with respect. We will find a way that honors her and helps our family too. He found the tutor by the gate as she was about to leave. Rain had started again, soft and steady. The umbrella waited where the housekeeper always left it. He asked if she had 5 minutes to sit in the small garden pavilion. She looked unsure, then nodded. They sat at the little table while drops tapped the roof like a quiet drum. I heard a bit of the call, he said honestly. I did not mean to, but the hall carried the sound. I also heard what you told my daughter. Thank you for your promise. I want to ask a few careful questions. If you prefer not to answer, I will respect that. She studied his face and then nodded once. You can ask. Is the problem something I can relieve without making your life heavier? He asked. Not only for a day, but in a steady way. I do not want to cross a line. I want to stand in the right place and help. Her shoulders eased. She chose her words with care. My grandmother's medicine cost has gone up, she said quietly. My mother's schedule may change for a month. I may need to cover more time at home and take extra hours at the shop. I can still study at night, but I may not be able to travel across the city every day next week. I do not want to disappoint your daughter, but I cannot promise what I cannot keep. He listened without interrupting. He let the rain fill the spaces between her sentences. Thank you for telling me, he said. May I share a thought? Yes. You are not just a tutor in this house, he said. You have become a guide. You are also a student with a dream and a family with needs. I would like to help in a way that respects all of that, not as a favor, but as a partnership. You are doing real work that changes lives here and in your community. Real work deserves real support. She did not speak at once. She looked at the umbrella handle, then back at him. What would that look like? She asked. It could look like a simple plan with clear steps, he said. First, I would like to offer you a monthly fellowship for your work here and for your advice to me on how to support learning in places that need it most. This is not a tip. It is payment for your wisdom and time. Second, I would like to cover your transportation and a basic, reliable phone so you can manage your schedule and keep in touch with your family without stress. Third, I would like to set aside funds for your exam and application fees when the time comes. Fourth, if you are willing, I would like to support the community center where you volunteer, quietly, with steady help for books and materials, under your guidance. You choose what is needed. No public show, no photos, just good work that lasts. She listened with both hands around the umbrella, as if holding steady while a wind passed through. I am grateful, she said at last, but I have conditions. Her voice was firm, not proud, just clear. If you help the center, the support should be steady and simple, and the children's names and faces must be protected. If you help me, I do not want special treatment in your home. I do not want to be a story of pity. I want to do my work well and keep learning. He nodded. Those are good conditions. I accept them fully. He slid a small card across the table. On it, in plain letters, was the name of a woman who ran charitable projects for his company, along with a private number. This is someone who can help us set up a clean structure. We can start with this month and review together. You will approve any purchase for the center. You will decide when to share news with my daughter. I would like your mother and grandmother to be comfortable with the plan. I can come to you, or you can come here, as you prefer. She looked at the card, and then at him, and he saw something move in her expression, relief, caution, and a quiet kind of trust. I will speak to my family tonight, she said. May I give you an answer tomorrow? Of course, he said. Take your time. And please know that if you say no, our respect does not change. You have already given us a gift. She stood to leave. He stood too. At the door, the daughter was waiting, clutching a folded paper. For you, the girl said, handing it over with both hands. I drew our learning bridge. On the paper, a small bridge linked two bright hills. On one hill was written, I am learning, and on the other, I can cross. Under the bridge, in neat letters, the girl had written, Please come back soon. The tutor pressed the drawing to her heart for a moment. I will do everything. I can, she said. Then she left, the umbrella a small shelter against the rain. That night, the billionaire did what he had promised himself. Ask, listen, then act. He did not order a solution. He prepared a plan in pencil. He called the woman. On the card, explained the need for quiet support and asked for a simple structure with no public notice. He drafted a short fellowship agreement that named the tutor as an education fellow, outlining her work with his daughter and her role as an advisor for small community projects. He made sure the language showed respect and partnership. He added, a note to replace her cracked phone with a basic, strong one, not flashy, with a clean data plan. He added monthly transport support and exam fee coverage. He wrote at the top in his own hand, steady, simple, kind. At breakfast, his daughter asked, Will she come back? He answered honestly, She is talking with her family today. I have offered help that honors her. We will wait for her answer. The girl nodded, holding her mug with both hands. I will read tonight. 10 minutes, she said, repeating a habit that had become a comfort. And I will keep the seeds. Company. The next afternoon, the tutor returned. She came with her mother and grandmother, who moved slowly but with dignity, and with her two younger brothers who stood close together, shirts tucked in for the occasion. The house staff guided them to a quiet sitting room, not the grand hall, a room with soft chairs and a round table. The billionaire greeted them simply and offered tea. He did not bring gifts. He brought the plan and a patient mind. They talked in clear voices. The tutor's mother asked practical questions. The grandmother listened with wise eyes and asked, Only one question. Will this make my granddaughter feel smaller? The billionaire answered, No. Weeks passed, and the house settled into a warm rhythm that felt natural and strong. The daughter woke early for lessons without anyone reminding her. The tutor arrived with her steady smile and her worn bag, and the two of them opened the wonder, book like a door to a bright room. The 3 seed cups by the window were no longer just cups. Thin green stems had risen and spread tiny leaves like little hands, turning toward the light. Every time the daughter checked them, she whispered, Keep going. It was a gentle promise to herself, too. The fellowship plan worked the way it was meant to work, quietly. The tutor's new phone made simple things easier. She did not have to fight with cracked lines to read a bus schedule. She could message the house staff if a bus was delayed. She could call home to check on her grandmother without worry. The support for the community center began with basics. Fresh paper, sharpened pencils, glue sticks, new storybooks that did not fall apart after 1 week. The shelves grew heavier in a good way. A colorful rug arrived. A small table for drawing, replaced a wobbling one. No signs with big names were posted. No cameras showed up. Everything looked like it had always been there, because that was the point, to make care feel normal. The billionaire visited once on a quiet afternoon, standing by the door like an ordinary helper. He watched as children crowded around the tutor for a reading hour. She changed her voice for each character, pausing in all the right places so they could feel the meaning. A little boy who used to sit at the edge now sat in the circle and raised his hand. A shy girl found her voice. On the second page, the volunteer in charge smiled with relief. Steady support, she had said before. He now understood why that phrase felt so important. It was not about doing everything in one day. It was about showing up over and over with respect. At home, the daughter's learning map grew. New sheets were added. One said, Questions are keys, with small keys drawn in the margins. Another said, Mistakes are steps, with footprints going up a simple hill. The jar of new words filled up faster than before. On Fridays, the jar became a stage for a tiny play. The daughter and the tutor laughed at the brave dictionary and the polite comma and the friendly number 7 who liked to sit between 6 and 8. The billionaire often paused at the door, smiling at the soft joy in the room. Success, he realized, could look like a child reading one clear sentence all the way through and lifting her eyes with pride. The tutor, meanwhile, began to prepare for university entrance exams. She studied late at night after her brothers were asleep. She borrowed test guides from the library and returned them on time with careful covers. The billionaire's support covered the fees without making noise. He asked his company's education team to help her find scholarship options and to check application deadlines, but he kept the circle small. This was her path. He was a guardrail, not a driver. One afternoon, the tutor asked the daughter to help her practice an interview. "Pretend you are the teacher," she said. The daughter sat tall and asked, "Why do you want to study at our university?" The tutor answered with calm eyes, "I want to learn how to design learning that is kind and strong. I want to build rooms where children are not afraid of hard words. I want to turn I don't know into I don't know yet." The daughter nodded with a proud smile. After the practice, the tutor hugged her wonderbook to her chest and whispered, "Thank you, friend." The waiting time for results was the hardest part. The tutor kept working with steady focus. She showed up at the mansion on time and left the same way, quietly. She ran workshops at the community center with simple posters and good pencils. She helped her grandmother with medication and forms. At home, she cooked rice and vegetables and told her brothers funny stories from the reading rug to make them laugh. The billionaire's daughter felt the waiting, too, as if the air in the study room had a soft hum in it. To help, she made a small paper chain and hung it by the window. Each link was a day. They removed one link every evening and said, "We are patient." On a bright morning, the letter came. The envelope looked like any other, but the tutor stared at it for a long moment before opening it. She was in the hallway of the mansion that day, early for the lesson. She took a breath and slid a finger under the seal. Her eyes moved from left to right, fast at first, then slow, then still. When she looked up, her quiet smile grew into something wider and softer. She had been accepted. Not just accepted, but also awarded a scholarship that covered most of her expenses. She closed her eyes for a second, as if holding the news in place so it would not fly away, and then she whispered, "Thank you," into the quiet hall. The daughter was the first to know. The tutor told her with a happy calm that made the moment feel safe. The girl clapped her hands and then covered her mouth, as if to keep the joy from becoming too loud. The billionaire came to the door, his heart already rising in his chest. He read the card with the simple letterhead and felt something lift inside him. He did not make a big speech. He only shook the tutor's hand in a way that showed respect, and he said, "Well done. You earned this." The next weeks were full of gentle planning. The tutor would leave at the end of the summer. She promised to keep the fellowship work and the community advising role during her studies, within healthy limits. She arranged her class schedule so she could still visit once a week for a lesson with the daughter, and she asked a trusted friend from the center to cover her other sessions when needed. The billionaire arranged a simple travel stipend and a little book budget for her first semester. Nothing flashy, only what was useful. On the last Saturday before she left for the university, the community center held a small reading morning. Families brought homemade snacks. Children sat on the bright rug with clean books. The tutor welcomed everyone with her usual calm voice. The billionaire stood in the back again, not as a guest of honor, but as a quiet supporter. His daughter sat in the front row and read a whole page out loud for the first time at the center. When she finished, she looked up to find the tutor's face. The tutor nodded with her eyes shining. The room clapped, not because it was perfect, but because it was honest and brave. After the reading, the volunteer showed the billionaire 2 new shelves and a neat cabinet for art supplies. "We can plan a tiny math corner next month," she said, excited but steady. "Not a big event, just good space." He agreed. A small plan on paper already had little boxes checked off: rulers, graph paper, a small whiteboard, markers that actually worked. He appreciated lists that turned into real things. He had made lists his whole life, but these lists felt different. They touched more than numbers. They touched stories. Back at the mansion, the tutor and the daughter had one final lesson before the new semester. They did not try to do everything. They did a few things well. They checked the plants, now too big for cups, and moved them to simple clay pots the gardener had brought. The daughter patted the soil with both hands, kind but firm. "Time to grow," she said, as if the plants needed permission. The tutor wrote a last line in the Wonder Book: "Even quiet things can be strong." Under it, she added, "You are one of them." The billionaire joined them for tea. He thanked the tutor not just for the lessons, but for the changes that had entered his house on soft feet. Patience, listening, steady work. He told her something he had learned. Big results can come from small daily choices, and respect is the best first step in any plan. He made one more offer, careful and clear. "If you ever need a calm place to study, this room is yours when you are in the city," he said. "No appointments needed. Just send a message so we can make tea." The tutor smiled. "Thank you," she said. "I will use it well." On the day she left for the university, the tutor came to say goodbye. Before sunrise, the house was quiet. The daughter handed her a new bracelet made of tiny wooden beads and a thin ribbon. "For your Wonder Book," she said, "so you never lose your place." The tutor tied it to the spine and held the book close. She bent, to the girl's height, and spoke softly. "Keep reading 10 minutes each night. Keep your kind voice close, and keep the bridge drawing where you can see it." The girl nodded, tears small but brave in her eyes. The billionaire walked them to the gate. He did not feel like a man who was losing something. He felt like someone who had helped something true happen at the right time. The driver opened the car door, but the tutor chose the bus again. The billionaire did not argue. He had learned to respect simple choices. As she waved and turned toward the street, the morning light touched the edge of her face. She looked the same as always, steady, hopeful, ready. The first months at the university brought new stories. The tutor sent a postcard with a drawing of a tall library and a note in her clean handwriting. "I found the reading room. It is quiet and kind." On weekends, she video called the daughter to check on the plants and the Wonder Book. She taught the girl a new game with words where each new word had to start with the last sound of the old word. They laughed when they got stuck on orange and decided to use golden fruit instead. The weekly lesson at the mansion became a happy promise, a time to reconnect and refill the jar of new words. The billionaire noticed his own habits had changed. He found himself speaking more gently in meetings. He asked better questions. When a problem looked heavy, he broke it into friendly,